the West Indies. And when you're facing the generals, nearly every ball is a funeral. And when we battle, brother, go and put your men on the boundary line. And if you give we a liquor, that is merely a hiccup. Look, you win the little battle, you lose the war. It's the same result every time. Everybody sing, here come the West Indies. Here come the West Indies. Them rude boys gonna get you by degrees. Here come the West Indies. I tell you now, here come the West Indies. Here come the West Indies. Them bad boys gonna bring you to your knees. Here come the West Indies. Special request to the Trinity posse. And what about the Guyana posse? And what about the Jamaica posse?
Right about now, King David, brother. David, brother.
Everybody, here come the West Indies. Here come the West Indies. Them bad boys gonna bring you to your knees. Here come the West. Everybody say, here come the West Indies. Here come the West Indies. Them rude boys gonna get you by degrees. Here come the West Indies. Well, the king had a dream. It was a mighty scheme. They devised a game by which they could always rule. They could always rule. So when they finished with the penalties, right through the colonies, when this game called cricket was the ace in the hand, but today they're back in the school. Everybody sing, here come the West Indies. Here come the West Indies. Them rude boys gonna get you by degrees. Here come the West Indies. Everybody sing, here come the West Indies. Here come the West Indies. Them bad boys gonna bring you to your knees. Here come the West Indies. And when you're facing the general, nearly every ball is a funeral. And when we back the brother, go and put your men on the boundary line. And if you give we a liquor, that is merely a hiccup. Look, you win the little battle, you lose the war. You see same result every time. Heaven knows, here come the West Indies. Here come the West Indies. Them rude boys gonna get you by degrees. Here come the West Indies. I tell you now, here come the West Indies. Here come the West Indies. Them bad boys gonna bring you to your knees. Here come the West Indies. Special request to the Trinity posse. And what about the Grenada posse? The Vincent and Quilla posse. And what about the Guyana posse? And what about the Basil posse? And what about the Antigua posse? And what about the Jamaica posse? Easy down, easy down, easy down, easy down. Give me some light in the house. We all know what happened in cricket recently, yeah? We got a world record. I was there. I was there when Curtly Ambrose bowled down the whole of England for 46 runs too. So Caribbean people, if there's one thing we have going for us is the cricket team, and everybody know that. All the divisions, the cricket team bring everything together, and the music. The two great forces in Caribbean history today, sport and culture. So we're gonna blend them together now. Let me see all the Jamaicans, all the Bajans. Wait, you know what I'm gonna do? All the West Indians, come. All the West Indians. Good, good. Now, to Americans, cricket to us is like baseball to you. The only difference is, baseball is like checkers. Cricket is definitely chess. That's the only difference. So I want everybody to sing with me right now. Come on. Here come the West Indies. Here come the West Indies. Them bad boys gonna bring you to your knees. Here come the West Indies. Everybody say what? Here come the West Indies. Here come the West Indies. Take down the music. I want to hear the people sing. I want to hear the people sing. You ready to sing with me? All right. Now we're going to start a little hoot nanny first, you know, so I want everybody to get a group together. Come on. Here we go. Here come the West Indies. Here come the West Indies. Them bad boys gonna bring you to your knees. Here come the West Indies. Everybody sing. boys gonna get you by degrees. Here come where they could bring Sri Lanka, New Zealand or India. You could smoke a little herb, be absurd. We will lend you a beach. You could bring South Africa, or talk big like Australia. Man, it's licks like fire and you're bound to surrender. Practice while you preach. Everybody sing, here come the West Indies. Here come the West Indies. Them bad boys gonna get you by degrees. Here come the West Indies. One more time. Here come the West Indies. Here come the West Indies. Them rude boys gonna bring you to your knees. Here comes the West Indies. Forever.
Oh, yes. Once upon a time. Well, we good evening to you. Good evening to you, King David, Michael, Rudder, taking us back in time. But you know, as we say, we have to keep on keeping on. Please share the link. We were on tonight. Last week we didn't make it on. We had what they call a double whammy, blackout, and then the internet went and all of that kind of stuff. But we're on tonight, and you David Rudder said they could bring big like South Africa, but tonight South Africa coming, and we need a lot of bigness tonight against South Africa. So we're going to preview the South Africa game. We're going to review what happened in this past week, and I have with me, of course, my two regular buddies, Dr. Vincent Adams and Basil Butcher Jr. And you know, once West Indies is at the state that we are, there's a lot to talk. The last time we were here 2 weeks ago, we had won everything. Well, we didn't only stumble against England, we were beaten badly against England, and we beat USA badly. But here we are coming up tonight. They said do or die tonight. And you know, once we're in that state, West Indians will have a lot to say, and we certainly would have a lot to say tonight about what went wrong and what we need to do to get it right tonight. After all, the competition is being played in our neighborhood, whether you call that the West Indies itself or in the United States. You know, we have a thing in Buxton. Neighboring village to Buxton is Annandale. And we always say when you go into New York, it's like you left in Buxton and go to Annandale. Right? New York and Georgia and New Jersey and Washington, D.C., and increasingly other parts of the United States. It's like you're in the West Indies. So it's in our neighborhood. And, you know, as we said, this thing will look bad. I think our people will settle if we get into the finals. And if we lose the finals, I think people are going to settle for that. But if we don't make it into the semifinals, my God. You're hoping and praying and so on. But at the end of the day, cricket is what it is. I think B.L. Crombie used to say, it's a game of glorious uncertainties. Those old timers who remember B.L. Crombie used to read sports news 5 minutes to 8. And I bet you they ain't got nobody today who can read sports news. The sports news is going to be 15 minutes long. B.L. Crombie will get that in 5 minutes. Good things come wrapped in small packages, he used to say. And so, welcome. Please share the link. We are going to be talking lots of cricket tonight. Here comes the West Indies. Some of you will be saying, win or lose. Well, no, I can't be talking cricket. I just say win or lose. Win, lose, or draw. We still in with the game. You know, I know plenty men, and increasingly the women now, I think, have a different perspective on the game than we men, you know. But I know enough man say I don't play. Them chap this, me neighbor them know maybe don't play. And you see the next match, you see even if they left home and they come on the road, they find a shop on the TV and they're watching. Every time they say they don't play. We can't don't play. What this game has done for us, really, I mean, it goes deep, as Rod himself would say, go deep within the Caribbean belly. I know men bright, more than fluorescent light, no thing. And there's scientists like Dr. Adams, and they know more cricket than the science. That's how deep cricket. You don't care. Basil would say, I understand he's a power. He gonna tell you what he is, but he's a nutrition man and performance thing and so on. So he's a scientist too. But they're no more cricket than the science, And the point I am making is cricket is science, art, culture, economics, politics, psychology. You name the discipline, we can fit cricket into it. Good evening. Welcome to Politics 101. I had the good pleasure of being in Old Town yesterday for a funeral. Good friend of mine buried yesterday. Big man, as you all said now, Sherlock Joseph. And as it turned out, he was the family of Shamar Joseph. So Shamar Joseph father, the whole family been there. His father, his uncle, his buddy, his auntie, his cousin. So I had the good pleasure of meeting them, and they'll be on the program tonight. And wonderful people. Somebody was saying, well, they're not picking Shamar, and the father said, all right, time coming, and so on. They were really, for them, the most important thing was quick. Big up to all the people of Barakara, down the Kanji, all the Hinds, because there are a lot of family down there. I understand. I met some of them yesterday. Big up, and the reason I mentioned the Joseph and Shamar's family and the fact that they were there, and they were more concerned about the West Indies winning. I mean, as much as I'm sure they want Shamar to play, it was about the West Indies winning. So let's do it. And they got every reason to want to cry. Although you notice, because it's too kanji man and play yet. But if you notice, nobody not saying the H word. It's only Brian Lara calling for Hetmeyer, the forgotten man. Well, a man tell me in Uptown yesterday, he said, I like the boy bad. I like Hetmeyer bad. But I hope he learn, he listen, the right for beat the ass and put it for sit down. I think that's the sentiment of a lot of Guyanese. But I don't think they can push it too far. I think that's my sense when I talk to people. They feel the bossy ass good put it for sit down, but I think for too long, because we West Indian people story go. If we lose this thing, you see, then they put that my for sit down. They should have played. West Indian. Good evening. But I think we're ready to roll. So let me bring in my partners. Dr. Adams, Basil. Good evening, my brothers. Let's start straight away on your. I don't want to say your predictions for tonight, but but let me start with tonight. What are you all looking for tonight? It seems to me that we have riches, talent, so much talent in that squad, right? That it now comes down, and I've been reading a few articles, not by West Indians, by a cricket analyst, and the problem for the West Indies, for a lot of analysts, comes down on putting the right combination on the field on a given day. my thing is that I think the selection, especially when it comes to the bowling, is quite predictable. And I have a problem with that. I do not think they are fitting the selection or tailoring the selection to fit the conditions and the opponents. I think if we to do anything, we have to look at the opponents, look at the conditions, and then fit the combination, the 11 to go on the field for that, especially when it comes to the bowling, because they say batting win matches, but I do believe that bowling and catches win matches before batting. But let's start. Basil, as the junior, you know, when big man drinking, they look around, who's a little guy. They say, "God." I find myself in that position as a big man couple of times. I will look around for little boy, and he's a little boy. Little boy, by 2 months, you know, I got for my drink, go get it, and buy drink all night. So, Basil, we start with you.
Well, I will start off. Good evening to your viewers, Dr. Hinds. I already start squeezing, right? Because I will tell you something. From the beginning of I was on a program, you know, and we had to predict, you know, the World Cup before the World Cup started. And I actually said I picked South Africa to win the whole World Cup. I looked through South Africa's team, and I saw a team that is loaded. They got some serious bowling, and they got some serious batters. And the last thing I wanted to see was South Africa play West Indies to go to a semi-final, right? When I saw we got linked up in the same group, I start to get worried, because, and then on the other hand, looking at how South Africa has played leading up to this game, one of the things that have been hovering over the South Africans is that they're chokers, and they had many opportunities to fulfill that narrative, and they've come through on the other end. So that to me I feel will give them even more confidence going into this game. But having said that, West Indies on their day can match up with anybody with the firepower that we have, right? And I think today, this game is who is going to make the plays, as we would say in American parlance, in the key moments. Who is going to hold their nerves in the key moments of the game? Who is going to have more keen game awareness? Because both teams, at times, I have seen a faltering in game awareness that almost, in South Africa's case, that could have cost them the game, like the other day with the guy bowling 5 full tosses, right? They, as we would say, they took victory from the jaws of defeat, right? And they faltered in terms of that game awareness. We have seen it West Indies against England, both Puran and Powell. Their lack of game awareness in the way they got out in 15th and 16th over cost us at least 20 runs, right? Maybe we could have scored more because they were both set. And so today I'm looking for more keen game awareness. I want to see a better performance, hopefully between 7 and 15 overs. We've been doing really well in the power play for the most part, except for the New Zealand game where we lost 4 wickets. But every other power play, we are in the 50s, 60s. So we have been doing our job in the power play. But when I look at in between those 7 and 15, that's where we need to really put together a good batting display to then put the hammer down from 15 to 20 and put up a serious score if we bat first or if we chase in that we could win the game.
15 to 20. And we're going to come back to that because, of course, the game, this 20 over game is in segments. You have
Yes,
the power
six,
play,
six, then 7 to
up to
15,
6, 7 to 15, and
and
then
then
we have
15 to 20.
16 to 20. And
Yes.
we're going to come back and we're going to clinically talk about where we are getting it right and where we are getting it wrong as the West Indies team. Dr. Adams, your opening salve, of course, you are an opening batsman. I don't know if you should take the first ball, but Basil take the first ball today.
Yeah.
Cricket.
I give the senior man, I took the strike.
this T20 is totally different to the kind of cricket we play in our times. I mean, it's cricket has evolved. But hi to welcome to all of our wonderful listeners out there, Dr. Hinds and Basil. Here, you know, of course, you said it all, Dr. Hinds. This here is not, it's an understatement of the century to say it's a must win. We win, we're in. We lose, we're out. It's as basic as that. And the unfortunate thing is that South Africa it looks as if they have found their mojo at this point in time. They, of course, they have played unbeaten throughout the tournament, but they've been scratching. And I think the one impetus that they've gotten now, which is unfortunate for us, is the cock. In the last game here, the cock looks as if he's back in touch. And a lot of times when he gives them that kind of start at the top, they're going to put up a big score. And then they've got the bowlers to back it up. This is no poo-poo bowling. Basil is absolutely correct. They're very skilled. Not only are they skilled, they're fast. They've got some firepower in that mix-up. So this here is a totally different team. But as Basil rightly said, also we can beat any team on any given day. However, we have to have discipline with this team. You know, this is not the USA team where everybody looked, you know, outstanding. And when I say discipline, some of our early batsmen, Puran, for example, he's got to be disciplined enough to not come out there. I don't know why he believes that he's got to come and swipe and run down the wicket from ball one. Puran is our best batter in that team, and a lot of the players are looking at him. He's got to stay around with the players. He can always step it up as long as he stays. He can step it up at the end, but it makes it easier for the other batters as long as he's there. And I believe Puran is the key to us getting a big score. Now, I believe we're going to bat deep, meaning that because of this bowling, they're going to take us deep in our batting. And I would, in terms of the team, and again, you know, I know that, you know, a lot of people are calling for Charles's head, and of course, you know, I'm a Mayor's guy too, and the only reason why, if I have to pick the team, in especially a critical game like this against South Africa, we're gonna bat deep, we're gonna need a big score, and the only reason why I would probably change out Charles, and it wouldn't surprise me if they keep him, by the way, and I think you know he deserves to play if they keep him, but because I think we're gonna bat deep. I would even change out McCoy because McCoy wasn't impressive in his last. He looked really, really ordinary. And by bringing in Mears, I can get Mears to bowl probably 2 overs, and then I Rutherford to bowl, you know, if you need be. But at least I would have maintained that batting down there, that long tail, instead of having McCoy there. Not a long tail, instead of having that, you know, so that we can have batting down with depth, rather than having McCoy that would have a long tail. However, again, I think it's going to start with the top, and Puran has got to show up. Now, I'm very encouraged by Shea Hope, who was one of my favorites, but I've never seen him bat like this in a T20 game. You know, he's more like, to me, a test batsman and a ODI, but he really showed up. You know, I don't know. He has an excellent nick. Now, if he comes, of course, it's difficult to compare the USA team with this team here, but he's still in good nick. His timing was just perfect, and if he comes with this kind of form, and Puran shows up, you know, with some others, I think we're going to be in good shape. But we have to put some runs on the board because wherever we got to defend it, and our bowling department is what I'm more afraid of.
So you were bringing in Mears for McCoy?
I would bring in Mears.
And you will interfere with the batting up front?
Well, I would bring in Mears for for um for
For
even
Charles.
Charles. But the difference between the two of them is Charles is not going to be able to bowl, and then But I would want to have that extra batter down at the end, down at the tail. But for bringing a batter for McCoy.
All right.
Yeah.
So, Basil, what would you do with the team tonight? Who you bring in?
That's a fair point. What Vincent is saying, because you got your five bowlers, and then Mayers being the sixth option in the event your five bowlers don't go well, right? And you have the additional batter, and Mayers could float, because if you notice in the matches against when we had a half strength team playing against South Africa, half strength, Mayers batted at 3 and 4, right? Because both King and Charles were opening the batting, and Mayers did a good job. Mayers did a good job in all of those matches. That at least two of them, he made 30 odds in both of them, and he did a good job. So he showed again that he could bat. He could bat elsewhere in the lineup, which to me was, well, we're going to leave that alone. God, that's spilled milk.
Listen, I have to say, when I looked at Hope the other night, I see a man who got something to prove.
Oh, yeah.
And he went out there and he backed himself. And tonight, I would bring in another man who got something to prove and put it to open the batting, because I would bring Hetmeyer in. I would bench Charles. I would bench Charles and put Hetmeyer out there because he has something to prove, and because I am still worried about the power play. I know, Basil, you said the data show we've been doing well on the power play.
Yes.
I still want to see 70-something in the power play. I am not satisfied with 50 odd in the power play.
But here, Dr. Hines.
Go ahead.
But here's a lot of people don't know, but this year I think is more throughout this. I think this year is more tailor-made in terms for Charles than anybody else because of the quicks. These folks, like the
Rabadon,
Ramon and the other quicks. This is the kind of anytime if it's spin early, it's he throws his bat and it's connect. This guy has 100 against South Africa. Basil got his stats.
Yeah.
Charles got 100 against South Africa.
I mean,
so this guy is a slasher, and it's easier to slash against this type of fast ball with the ball coming onto your bat and you're slashing the ball flying. Because remember, we only got two men outside of that circle, and all you got to do is fly, and the ball can fly off the edge and everything. That's it. It's tailor-made for him. So I believe if he's gonna come on, it might even be tonight. So, but so I mean, either way, I don't mind. It's either if he doesn't play, then I'll move Mayers into that slot. But if he plays, then Mayers could come in at 3 and put Puran at 4.
Mm-hmm.
Basil, give me your thesis on the power play, because I still think 50 odd, given the fact that we struggle from 7 to 15, and I don't think we're going to correct that tonight. I hope we do. I don't believe you're going to correct. Given the fact that we struggle from 7 to 15, it means that we have to have extra firepower between 1 to 6 and 16 to 20.
Yeah.
And so it is why I'm saying anything below 70, 75 in the power play, I think we have not done well. But you have a different...
we got to be careful with using cookie-cutter narratives, because the conditions, for the most part in this tournament, has not been where you got flat tracks and a batter could stand up and deliver and be able to have that kind of run rate, right? You've had slow pitches, so the ball is not, and bowlers being smart to bowl the ball into the pit. So now you as a batter, you have to generate the power. You're not getting the pace on ball and those things. So most teams, when they've done a good job in the power play, is you got 50 odd, right? Between 50 and 60, and you lose about 1 wicket maximum. Because again, once you got more wickets in hand, it gives you the opportunity to be able to be a little more aggressive in the middle overs, because you're not going into the middle overs down 3 or 4 wickets where you're looking to do a repair job. You could continue to be aggressive. That's where running between the wickets, running hard between the wickets come into play, because the boundaries soak up usually in the middle overs, because the field now is spread. You're defending the boundaries, and our guys seem to still have this propensity that we have to clear the fences. We have to clear the fences. That's the optimal way to score. Now, if you could run at least 4 twos and maybe get a boundary or so in between, that's 12 runs, and with minimal risk. So I don't know why our guys cannot have such an approach, because the boundaries are not going to be coming. They're not going to be coming. You know, these pitches. And in Antigua, the last game there, we're gonna, you know, sometimes in Antigua the pitches have been slow. They've had some bunks, but they haven't been fast pitches that where you're coming onto the bat. We can see what it's going to be like tonight.
Hey, Dr. Hines, let me, on this whole thing, what they had my opening. I hear a lot of people saying it, but Hetmeyer opening batting is a mental thing too. If it's a specialized area.
He did it before, you know. He did it before. He opened batting before.
Yeah, but he didn't do a good job.
But that's exactly what I'm going to get to.
All right.
Hetmeyer has been programmed over the last several years to be a finisher. That's his designation. It's a finisher. Even in IPL, every place he goes, he comes and he bats for 10 deliveries or 12 deliveries. That's it. So now to move him, it's a mental thing that he hadn't been opening for years, and he liked that designation of being a finisher. That's where he's making his money. So now to move him up to open, especially against this pace attack. You remember one time he even got hit in his head against that New Zealand team, and so it's not that easy to just transition from as a finisher to coming in there and then opening. It's going to be a lot of pressure on him mentally.
All right, let's get clinical here. Our problem in the batting department is 7 to 15. Given the team that we are likely to go in with tonight, who in that 7 to 15 are going to be the 1 or 2 batters that we have to depend on to maximize the 7 to 15? Because I think this is where the thinking has to go in. You have to look and say, here is where we're weak. We're weak 7 to 15. Look at your team and say, I'm shuffling the cards to ensure that this batter, that batter, get in there between 7 to 15. How are we? Because you're 7 to 15, you're talking about rotating the strike. That's one. You're talking about being deft against spin bowling. I think at the end of the day, nothing beats technique, right? And you have to have technique against spin, even to rotate the strike. Part of the reason I think we're not rotating the strike is that we don't have technique against spin. We're not able to push the spinners into the gaps and so on and so forth. So I'm asking you all, given what we have, all right, how are we going to shuffle the cards to ensure that we maximize 7 to 15? Basil, let's start with you and then.
The 3 batters I have in mind that should be the ones to shoulder that responsibility is Hope, Chase, and Puran. They are the 3 batters in the team. Clearly, they were the better players of spin in the team. And those are the 3 batters where I see would shoulder that responsibility, so that people like Powell, Russell, Rutherford could come and just blaze, right? So, and one of the things I have noticed something when Puran and Hope bat together, they're running between the wickets is pretty good. And they seem to have a nice chemistry between the two of them when you see them batting together. So and you saw a glimpse of it there against USA, albeit USA bowling attack is not the greatest bowling attack, but still you saw that characteristic between the two of them. So I looking for those three to be the ones. And it's funny, that's what those three guys have been put in those positions to bat for that exact role, to deal with the 7 to 15 to up that run rate and not keeping it at 6 or 7.
Dr. Adams, I know you're a Puran man.
Yeah,
hold on. I want to ask you a question. I know you're a Puran man.
Yeah.
I know you're a Puran man. I hear Hope, and I'm convinced about Hope. I think Hope got technique against spin. I ain't too sure about Puran, you know. I'm not too sure of Puran against quality spin. No, it took Rashid apart in the Afghanistan game, but that's against Afghanistan because Rashid alone. But when he come up against the Rashid from England, who is in an attack that includes Archer and Wood and others. By the way, I think for me, the greatest over that was bowled in this tournament is that over that Archer bowled to Puran. With those 6 balls outside the half stump, he knocked one for 4 and then eventually nicked it behind. I thought that was a moment out of this world. I think it exposed Puran. But anyhow, are you convinced that Puran can handle good spin bowling that is part of a good attack?
Absolutely.
All right.
It doesn't. What the Puran's problem is discipline. His problem is discipline. Even that over that that best over that you talked about there, he got indisciplined by Puran he can play anything as long as the guy is the sweetest timers of the ball, but he's got to understand his role in the team. He's the best batsman. He just can't go and give it away. He loses patience. If Puran stays around and he runs well between the wicket, by the way, and go, as the delivery goes, he goes in the same way, push, get a single. He's one of those, what you were talking about, Doctor, and you and Basil, to tuck it around the corner and push it there, in front to get a single and show in the gap. He can do that and wait by this time because he's also probably our best person down at the end.
Right,
taking advantage. And
I buy that.
Yeah.
I buy him the best person. Puran, if he is at 50, at over 16, I back him all the way. I think he can make 100 as he showed.
That's why you have to tell yourself, the longer I stay here, the better, because down to the end, that's where I'm going to capitalize. But and it's not even about Puran himself. The rest of the batsmen who coming in, if Puran gets out early, because they're looking at Puran as the best batsman in the team, without question. So when he gets out early, then they've got to come now and play Puran's role to try to step it up, and they're under pressure. And a lot of them do not have that kind of ability that this guy got. So he's got to understand he's got a key role. And tonight, I'm telling you, how Puran goes tonight, so goes the West Indies. Watch it. And because this is no poo-poo bowling, and he's our most experienced, pure batsman that we've got to depend on. So I hope he comes out here with the kind of discipline to understand his role in this team and needs to stay around, and so that the other batters can come in and play their game freely. And as long as we do that, we're going to be okay. Now, let me go. My other batsman is Hope. Now, Hope is the other guy. If Hope sticks around for a long time, Hope can also play that same role. While Hope is showing up, the other guys will be confident that at least we've got Hope at that end, and we can, play our own game. So those are the two batters that I'm looking forward to bat long through this inning, either Hope or Puran.
Basil, so Vince is saying Puran's problem is discipline.
Mm-hmm.
I am saying it's probably discipline, but also a weakness against top-class spin bowling. Where you stand?
You got to remember a guy like Adil Rashid. Adil Rashid is a very cunning bowler. Adil Rashid possesses a tremendous googly, and he varies his pace very well. So he keeps a batter off balance more so than Rashid Khan, who bowls pretty quick, right? And you could line up Rashid Khan, especially on a pitch that is a good pitch like the St. Lucia pitch. But Adil Rashid is a different kettle of fish. Look today against albeit is USA, but he bowled 2 brilliant googlies. Right?
Well
and I have seen him
Yeah.
on numerous occasions defeat West Indies batsmen with those googlies, right and left-handers, right? So that is why Adil Rashid is a cunning character. But Puran, look, South Africa doesn't have a leg break googly bowler on their team, right? They have a world-class left arm spinner.
Maharaj.
Right. I don't know if today South Africa is going to play 2 spinners because at times the other one, Shamsi, has owned West Indies.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Shamsi has had some of his better games in his career against West Indies, right? I don't know if they're going to play the 2. And if Shamsi is pitching, that he can cause a problem too for Puran because he threatens both edges of the bat because he outside and inside edge. Those kind of spinners always going to cause problems to any kind of batsman, right? Because remember in the T20 game, it's not like in a test match you could sit back and wait and so this milking thing is not something you're really looking to do because you got a short amount of overs to bat. So you gotta temper your aggressiveness, and you have to be even sharper in your decision making as when to go against top-notch spinners and when not to go, right? And that is the balance, I think, more so than Puran's lack of ability of playing spin. It's more a mental issue with Puran. Puran has not struck that balance of when to go and when to temper himself. It's almost like with him, it's an ego thing. He believes, I got to beat this spin out to the top. There are times you got to respect the bowler. The ball, it's not you alone playing. You got to respect the bowler and let the game come to you rather than you going and trying to grab the game. And those are things that, Vincent would tell you. Those things come with experience. Because when you let the game come to you, you're usually always relaxed. Your mind is clear. You're not fluttered or anything. Your mind is clear as what you're going to do. I listened to the cock. I just want to put this point. And the person in the last match asked him at the post-match, what was his plans and thinking? And the cock gave the lady a quizzical look like, think? I go out there and I see the ball. If the ball is in my area, I hit the ball. That's why the cock has been, when I listened to that, it really showed me why he has been successful. He don't got a lot of clot in his head. His mind is clear when he goes out to bat, right? You come in my area, I go in with you. If you're not in my area, I can play a different type of stroke and that kind of thing. And he has stayed with that simple formula throughout his career. That's why he's been so successful, I think.
And Basil, the other thing you look at the cock is the one player, one of the few players who he seldom ever predetermined what shot he's gonna play. Like how Puran is run down the wicket, not knowing, not the cock. He plays everything to its merit, but he stands there.
Yes.
And his form, he doesn't predetermine a shot. Very, very seldom does he do that.
Exactly. And usually when he does that, it's out of character and he gets himself out.
Yep.
I am going to get in trouble tonight.
But Dr. Hines, let me say this. Let me put this one fact in there. I don't know of any, just like the Indian batsmen, I don't know of any top class Trinidadian who cannot play spin. And it's because of the wickets that they grow up on.
Yeah.
Right.
Because of the wickets they grow up on. So any top class Trinidadian, they're the best West Indians to play spin. Every one of them.
In Puran's case, he hasn't played spin in 4-day matches enough and 5-day matches. But anyhow, that's another story. That's another story. I am going to get in trouble tonight if I do not get two people who apparently are seen as biased against Shimron Etmire to treat the Etmire issue seriously, because people are saying, this man say, Mr. Hines, the great Brian Lara said Shimron Etmire, with the experience, must be selected to play this knockout game against South Africa. Story done. I want you all, put aside you all Shimron Etmire, vex with the bias and so on. Please, for the sake of my audience tonight,
yes,
to treat the Etmire issue that the great Brian Charles Lara has put on the table with some seriousness it deserves. Does Lara have a point? First, you, Basil, and then Vince.
Myself and Vincent all morning have exhausted this subject.
Well, please exhaust it tonight.
And I disagree with Brian Lara. Firstly, this is a knockout match. Hetmyer has not played in a high pressure match like this ever in his life, right? So for Brian Lara to make this leap of assumption that Hetmyer would make the difference in this match when he has never in his life ever done something like this. Secondly, Hetmyer was this problem with West Indies and this strike rotation and blah, blah, blah. It's not a new problem. It has been around, I would say, for decades. Even before T20 came into existence, we used to be complaining about the lack of rotation and striking the 50-over game when West Indies played. It has been a chronic problem for us. Hetmyer have been part of those teams where it was a chronic problem. So how now he turns a solution when he was part of the problem? It's not just him, but as a collective West Indian batsman. I remember we used to say Dinesh Ramdin was our best person to work the ball around, and he was not even the top 6 batsman. He come in at 7, and he was the top batsman in the team to find the gaps and so on and so forth. So, all due respect to Brian Lara, I disagree with him saying that to bring Hetmyer. And I mean, I think that would be unfair to Hetmyer to throw him in this cauldron. We know this is do or die. And you think they're gonna say, Hetty, today is your day, boy. Let's go. No, man. What coaches are supposed to do is to put players in the best position to succeed. And to put Hetmyer in this situation for a game like this tonight, I think would be very unfair to him.
With all due respect to Basil Butcher Jr., I still think Hetmyer has the best technique in the West Indies team.
Who's saying that?
That's my view. That's my view. That's my view. That's my view. I know. I know. No, hear me out. Hear me out. I am in total. I'm totally in favor of the benching of Hetmyer because I think it's good for him.
Yes,
I support him, and I think the benching of him is. But I do not think that he is worse than what we have. I think he's much better than a lot of the batsmen that we have there.
Based on what Dr. Hines.
So I think I am making a distinction between disciplining a chap who is badly indisciplined without taking away his bona fides from him.
Dr. Hines, before Vincent speak, let me just tell you this. My view on Hetmyer have nothing to do with his extraneous activity off the field. When I look at Hetmyer, what he does on a cricket field, full stop. Unlike many other people, they got the axe to grind with Hetmyer. I have no axes to grind with Hetmyer. in my view, as you know, I didn't have Hetmeyer in the squad. So to me, Hetmeyer still remains a lucky man to be in the squad. And he got in the squad because the selectors took a punt on Hetmeyer instead of going with Mayers, right? I mean, and you're saying about this technique. I mean, Dr. Hines, I would say you're being very sentimental. Look, as Vincent pointed out, look at Hetmeyer in the last 3 years. Look, because primarily in the last 3 years, he has played in the IPL. He hasn't played as much for the West Indies, right? His primarily has played in the IPL. And look at Hetmeyer in the last 3 years in the IPL. One of the things I noticed, because because I got a lot of friends who just like you, Dr. Hines. So when I come to a debate, I like to be prepared. Although I don't look at the IPL. I would look when Hetmeyer play, because when they come with the superlatives, I want to be able to have an intelligent conversation. I have noticed something about Hetmeyer in the last, and even more so in the last 2 seasons, his ineptitude against quality spin bowling. Ineptitude was something that was not part of his makeup in his earlier years. This was a guy that used to handle good spin bowling. But in the last 2 years, I have noticed when he sees good spin bowling, he is more indecisive as to what to do. And I lend that to what Vincent would always talk about. You make him this finisher, you're seeing 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 balls again. How can you keep those skills, right? So
I don't disagree with you about that at all.
I would be very hesitant.
No.
That's why I disagree with Lara to put this guy in this situation tonight.
I do not disagree. And I do not disagree.
No, but
with
hold on, Hines.
Yeah.
Lara is asking to drop Ruston Chase to play Hetmeyer. That is whom he's asking to be dropped.
No, I wouldn't go
That's
there.
where I want to know Mr. Lara.
If Chase were just a batsman, I would go there, but we need Chase bowling.
Exactly.
But
anyway, let me get Vincent here.
Here, Dr. Hines, you see how you're thinking there in terms of technique, and there's no bias here. I don't think anybody had loved Hetmeyer more than I did when he was coming up as a youngster. I was making big runs. I used to have to ask, who the heck is this guy? I used to be running to the newspapers. I remember me and Basil when we went, and I can't remember the game again. We were in Florida, and I had a nice conversation with a young man, and I was following him. So what you're saying there, that sentiment you're expressing that he's got the best technique, that was in the past, Dr. Hines. That's years ago you were talking about there. Mm-hmm. He has lost that. You cannot maintain that technique when you're batting number 7, 8, and coming in as a finisher and only batting for what, 6 to 10 deliveries. Mm-hmm. You cannot, and he has not maintained that, and that's his psyche right now. So when I hear folks talking about let him open batting, I mean that doesn't make any sense to start with. But Hetmeyer and Basil should go further than that. What has Hetmeyer done, even as the cleanup hitter, in the last year or two? What numbers did he put up to show that he is still capable? Here's the other thing. When you're a big superstar, when you come back home into county, our regional tournament, you should dominate.
But he don't play.
When he played, he didn't dominate.
He played, actually, and he
got dropped from the Guyana team.
Well, they won their team, the 50 overs team.
Yeah.
Stephen Bamfield here disagrees with you all. Bama, it's on the screen there. If you're ever going to play him, it's in this match. Hines, I agree with you. He's a good enough player to produce, but he cannot. But he cannot drop Chase for him. And I agree.
He can't play it if you can't try. Who are you going to drop to play him?
For me, he comes in for Charles.
Well,
I want to get you all take on that over that Archer bowled to Puran. I want you to get you all take on it, because I think if ever there was a big moment in a match. And I think we lost the match there. I think we lost the match when Archer priced out Puran in that over. Let me go with Doc first, and then I come to you, Basil.
No, again, Puran, look, Archer was ball. He started over bowling well, and that's where if you can catch Puran, and you put him on the defensive where he's not scored. Puran wants to score every delivery with a boundary.
But he's pitching it outside the off stump, yeah? He's pitching it outside the off stump. And he does that for 6 balls.
Yeah, but here's how he got out. Did you see how he out? He just threw his bat. He wasn't anywhere close. He's not that kind of a player. He's got better technique than that, Dr. Hank. You know, he could have played that ball in several different ways, but he threw his bat at it. He wasn't even close to the delivery. If the first thing is if I see, or if he's a much, you know, he's way up there. But if I see that that's where they're going to attack me, I'm going to adjust and move and try to get closer to the delivery rather than staying in the same motion and just throwing your bat at the ball. And that's what he did. He should have tried, if he knows that they're going to bowl while they are stump. They do that all the time to batsmen. But again, he's got the, you know, he's got the skills, he's got the know-how, he's got the experience to understand, well, okay, how do I do this? Not the first time I'm sure that a bowler bowl wide outside of his arm. But he stood there and just threw his bat at it and the ball took the outside edge.
I think, Basil, before you come in, I just think he got outsmarted. And I think West Indian players, both bowlers and batsmen, for the most part, don't play with uppy. And including Puran. I would love to see Puran play Test cricket because I think he has it within him to be a good, but he's going to struggle in Test cricket. I think Puran is going to struggle big time. When you are going to get 3 slips on a gully, 4 slips on a gully, and you get quality fast bowlers at him, he's going to struggle big time because he doesn't have this. He has all the other things that you say, but he ain't got this. 20 overs, you are going to be able to carry out there for 20, 30 balls in Test cricket. I think he could develop if he plays Test cricket, but he's going to struggle at the beginning. Basil Butcher.
Look, Puran was caught on the crease. And one of the things also people not looking at, he was beaten for pace every one of those balls.
Yes.
Archer bowled an over of high pace.
Yes.
And the last ball, the ball that he touched,
150 yards.
That was over 90 miles. Or it was like 91 point something. And as Vincent correctly said, there was no foot movement. He just waved his bat. At that point, he could have said, "Look, man, here, I can take a maiden or whatever it was."
That's exactly right.
And I can come and I can target somebody because here, that's where sometimes you got to tip your hat to the bowler. Archer bowled to a plan, keep the ball wide, and Puran did not make an adjustment because he was one, and that's the difference when you play a lot of first-class cricket, Test cricket, and so on. A man beat you for pace 1 or 2 balls right away in your mind. You make an adjustment. How can I get into position quicker to handle that ball? Yeah. There was none of that from Puran. He stood the same place and waved. And Archer, to Archer's great benefit, Archer played around with the width he was bowling the ball with, because you remember one that he brought it in that was about a 4th or 5th stump line and bamboozled it. Puran, lucky that ball was not on the stumps because he would have been gone, because he was looking for something somewhere a little wider and Archer came a little closer, and then Archer took him a little wider and he waved thinking the ball close enough. And because again, now Vincent will tell you this, when you don't know where your off stump is,
that's right.
You will play at balls you don't have to play at. He had no clue where his off stump was. Even in T20, it still has a value to know where your off stump is when you shouldn't play at balls that you know you're not going to be able to catch up with. And that one he was never going to catch up with. 90 odd miles an hour and just stand up and just one wave your bat and you got beaten. You got beaten all over for pace.
But here's the other thing. If you guys believe that South Africa did not look at also at that over,
of course
they're gonna come because they've got men with the pace to come, and they're gonna come right there. So I hope that he's learned his lesson and he's gonna do better with them, because they're gonna attack him there too when they look at that over.
Dr. Hines,
Yeah.
what about the over that Jansen bowled in the 19th over against England under serious pressure? England got what, 23 or something to make it 2 overs, and Jansen run up and bowl not only a good over, he got did he get a wicket? No. It was the over before the wicket. But he bowled a brilliant over to give Norcaea a double-figure score to defend in the last over. So it was less pressure. So Norcaea could have given away a boundary as he did in the first ball, if I remember. The guy hit him for 4, right? So he had some breathing room. Now, if that was 8 runs to defend in the last over now, and the batsman hit the 4 the first ball, you could call it curtains. It's over.
Yeah. But Bama is saying there that you don't drop 2 catches like Puran did against him.
Well, there, all due respect to Bamas. The second one, and he's a wicket keeper. The second one, those are the hardest catches for a wicket keeper. A bottom edge, because you are blinded with that ball, because the bat is horizontal. You are coming up with the bounce of the ball. The batter swings, so you got to come up so you could see the edge of the bat. The batter swings and the ball hits on the edge. That got to stick. But the first one, I am still baffled. Why Puran did not make an attempt to dive and catch the ball, the ricochet? He could have gotten that ball. It's almost like he didn't realize the ball got edge. But the ball went down on his hunches, displaying that you dropped my catch. And he just stayed there bewildered and then run and just retrieve the ball like the ball didn't touch the ball. I asked a friend of mine who is a journalist, if you see Mr. Puran, can you ask him what was in his mind with that situation?
Well, I also wanted to know what was in his mind in an earlier match. I can't remember. I think it might have been against New Zealand, when he watched them that thing line up and he could have just literally walk and take off those bears.
I know between me, Dr. Hines, I don't know why West Indies don't put Shea Hope to go behind the stumps.
I think Shea should
by far, and because this is a match we can't afford no drop.
Here's where I'm going to disagree with Basil. And Basil is disagreeing with his own father. The one thing I hear every single time from y'all always tell us wicketkeepers, stay down. And Bam is a wicketkeeper. To me, Puran stood up, jumped up too fast. Butcher would tell you every single time, stay down. As a matter of fact, I hear him telling wicketkeepers are going to put an anchor around your neck so you can stay down. And so he was way up, and you got to stay down. And I think he's not the only wicketkeeper that I see make that mistake. That a lot of them is just a reflex action that somebody play a shot and you jump right up, and anything low you don't have any more control.
But the catch that he dropped off of this spinner, right? The first one, the bottom edge. His position of his gloves were poor. That's why the ball hit the gloves and bounced out, because he didn't have no give in the gloves, or he had the gloves where the gloves are almost crossing each other, right? Rather than here, that the ball could have hit the glove and he would have had a give to catch it. His glove position was poor also. I don't know how much about the coming up, because the ball hit him right in the middle of the gloves and bounced out.
Should we go with Hope tonight? I feel Hope is a better keeper.
In my
more
view,
sure,
once Hope is playing in 11, Hope is my wicket keeper. Puran is a damn good outfielder, but he's a sharp keeper. He's a sharp keeper. And for me, Puran also, even in the last game against is USA, where he kept chatting and the batsman stopped and said, man, the umpire had to come and tell him, shut your mouth, you can't be talking. Well, he get too much focus on catching the bloody ball and forget about everything else.
Gentlemen, two big upsets, I would say, of the tournament so far. The other night, Afghanistan. The other day, yesterday, it was Afghanistan trash Australia. But also the fact that the United States made it into the Super 8. I think it was quite a surprise. But, I've been, a couple of people have called me about what's going on with U.S. cricket. And precisely because they've done so well and they've gotten into, they got into the Super 8. I know, Vincent, you had something to do with...
Vincent could give you chapter and verse.
What? Because I've heard some disturbing stories.
Yeah, well, that's right. That's where Vincent can give you chapter and verse.
Vincent, talk to us.
All right, and of course, Basil has been in.
Yeah, I can give you some overview, but in terms of specifics, the nonsense that's been going on, specifically in the last year or so, Vincent can give you chapter and verse.
All right, Vincent, give me chapter and verse.
So first, I want to congratulate this U.S. team. They've done outstandingly well. This is historic. But what it shows the potential for the United States cricket to go a long way. However, as we can see on that team, we need to start building from the bottoms up. And it so happened that I was on the ICC, the organization which was USACA before this new organization was expelled from the ICC. Then the ICC put together a small group of which, I happen to be part of, to write a new constitution and create this new organization called USA Cricket, USAC. And our direction was to go and create this thing so that we won't make the same mistakes of the past. However, the ICC looked at the USA Cricket as the next frontier for cricket, because they said that the rest of the world was cricket saturated. We've got a lot of money here. So when it comes to especially T20 and the commercial value, so that's where they were focusing on. So when we established the constitution, we had elections and everything else. We thought that we looked at, we closed every single hole that was in the past administration, all the mistakes. And this was in 2016 we started. We established that constitution in 2018. And lo and behold, I'm going to say this now, it has become 10 times worse than what we had before in terms of how cricket is organized. It's the discriminatory actions. Imagine, Dr. Hines, this here is a good indication. Imagine. Now, if you look at the U.S. team right now, like I said, it's always made up to start with. It's made up of a lot of foreign players who, they can't make their national teams in other countries. They came here and to make the U.S. team, or they were ex-players in those countries. When we developed the constitution and in USAC cricket, we were supposed to go into the inner cities because we know that's where the athletes are. Look at football, cricket, football and basketball. That was the whole plan. This organization that has come into place, they're totally different now. It's for the rich and the elite. They've set up all of these academies that pay you've got to pay tens of thousands of dollars to get your kids into the academies. And then those kids are the ones, and the people who are picking the teams and who are running USA Cricket are somehow associated with those academies and the people who are running those academies. So that's the relationship. But listen to this, Dr. Hines. Imagine if you look at the USA, and the USA Cricket is always made up predominantly of South Asians and Caribbean folks. And under the past administration that was expelled, there was always a nice, like a 50-50 split. So even from the boardroom right onto the cricket field. So would you believe, Dr. Hines, if you look at that USA team, it has 2 black players. So when those 2 black players, Taylor and Jones, and they probably got a couple more years of their career, when they're gone, there is no pathway for another black player to be there for generations. Let me tell you why. The USA under 15, under 17, under 19, and under 23 teams, all feeding into the national team. None of they don't have a single black player, in all of those teams. On both, even I think the women's team is about the same. So here you are. It's not for the because there isn't they're not people with the talent to do it. Because I can tell you, there was one kid, for example, who did not make the USA top 28 in their squad for the under 19 World Cup, and he made the West Indies because his origin is Barbadian. He made the West Indies squad of 18. He is now bowling to the Scotland. He's been co-opted bowling in the nets to the English team in Barbados. And here's a guy, he cannot even make the top 28. And this is a guy who was one of the top scorers in the trials in California just last year. But another player who made duck in both of his innings in the trial, he made duck in both innings. But he belonged to one of the kind. He was played in front of this kid who averaged 35 in his 4 innings. The other thing, and this year is gonna, and I've said this before, that should stun everybody. In that same tournament, Dr. Hines, the same tournament in California, there were over 100 players, because there were 6 teams, over 100 players and coaches. They had an email sent to every participant, the players and the coaches, to say, food will be served. It will be Indian food. It will be served buffet style. And if you don't like it, you are on your own to get your own food. Imagine that. So the coaches, we had some outstanding West Indian coaches. They went ahead and over, and pushed them aside when we were fighting. Why aren't these people with certification? People who played cricket for Guyana and other countries in the West Indies and got their level 3 certificates, and yet they were picking people as coaches who had no certificate whatsoever. One of the top coaches, who was the coach of the under-19 team, a black coach, they fired the guy and he did not even tell him that he was fired. And then when we started making noise, they brought him back and made him an assistant coach on this team. They did the same thing to a woman national player from the Caribbean. We appointed her unanimously to the as the head selector. They got rid of her and did not even tell her that she was fired after about 2 or 3 months. Right now, the board. Let's start with the board, Dr. Hines. The board, and I was heading the committee that appoint board members. So we had no diversity whatsoever. So we on the board unanimously selected a West Indian, a black West Indian lady, the first black on this board, who was an outstanding cricketer. She was the captain of the West Indies team at one time. She became an attorney, practicing attorney in New York. We appointed her to the board. And now they're trying to get rid of her, the only black member of that board. They're trying to get rid of her off the board. So those are the kinds of things that we, as a matter of fact, I resigned because of it, Dr. Hines. I resigned just several months here, but I think early in this year, I decided that, I'm not going to be part of that, what's going on there as a matter of principle. So I decided to resign, but I am not going anywhere because I'm going to do my part to make sure that this is fixed. The board right now is divided in half. No, not half. There are 3 board members against the other 7, and the letters flying back and forth to the ICC and the United States Olympic Committee. They hired they've changed out 4 CEOs. I think it's like 4 CEOs in the last several years. They brought in this new CEO, and because this new CEO decided to stand up to them and the decisions that they were making, they fired him because he was standing up for everything that I'm talking about here, for what was right, and they fired him. So we've got to, in order for us to achieve this potential that we've seen here, we have got to make the changes in terms of the governance. As a matter of fact, there's lots of discussions with the ICC and United States Olympic Committee. As a matter of fact, you like what I'm saying here? is the United States Olympic Committee has written the board 2 letters that I know of and really lambasted them for their as a matter of fact, I think they use the exact words. I think they talk about this dysfunctional board. And then the USOPC, for us to play the Olympics in 2028, which was one of our goals when we set up this organization. Our plan was to play to go to the Olympics, and we've got to get certification from the USOPC. And as far as I can tell right now, the USOPC, which is basically a quasi-US government where you got to follow the rule of law, it's going to be difficult for us to get certification. So that's where we are in terms of the governance. But again, I want to come back and congratulate the players. Besides all of those type of things that are happening in the background, they were able to and there's even some issues that they've got to deal with in terms of paying for their own fare to go play cricket. I mean, but the players have done well. I want to congratulate them, and hopefully, the ICC can see that we need to make some serious changes in terms of the governance if we're going to be able to realize the potential of what the ICC vision was when we set up this organization for USA cricket to be the next frontier for cricket. This year is a good start in terms of highlighting, bringing the cricket within the USA, and we need to build on this, but we cannot build on it if we continue with this poor governance.
Basil, anything you would like to add?
Yeah, overview. I'm going to just go back a little bit in history, because I coached from under 15s all the way to seniors in this country. I used to be the head coach for the region that we used to call, it was called Atlantic, which encompassed the states from Virginia all the way up to New Jersey. And when we would have national tournaments, and I remember, the teams coming from west of the Mississippi, everybody was, for the most part, it was almost 99% South Asian. Whereas the only teams that had any kind of diversity were the teams east of the Mississippi, i.e. New York, us to a lesser degree, and the teams coming from Florida area, right? And at USACA, which was an organization before this one, I got up in a meeting after these South Asian guys were lauding about the academies they're building in the Midwest and so on. And I got up and pointedly said to all of them, all of y'all are talking nice, but you guys are not taking the game outside the expatriate community. The only people that come to your academies is people like y'all. Y'all live in the areas where white people and so on live because y'all in the burbs. I don't see no white kids in y'all academy. So what are y'all lauding about here, right? And I said, this is going to be a dangerous situation with this academy structure where you're going to have this hierarchy in cricket, and working class and poor people will not be able to participate because their parents cannot afford to send their children to academy to pay thousands of dollars to teach them to play cricket. And that model is which US cricket is upon right now, right? Because in India, for example, because I went to India, this academy thing in India is a cottage industry. Everybody got an academy. An academy means a place where you're teaching young people to play cricket. It's not academy in the way we think of it. So they have taken that model and have brought it here to the United States. But it creates that hierarchical structure. So that's one of the big problems. The other problem is our current structure, cricket structure, the foundation, still remains recreational cricket. It has to be transformed. It has to be more professionalized. And not necessarily when I mean professionalized, paying people to play in the way it is managed to develop and promote the sport. Because currently the structure is not promoting the sport or developing players, right? So the structure that is in place is the structure that our ancestors, when they came to the United States in the turn of the century, formed clubs and wanted to play the sport, the game for recreational reasons that they played back home. We still remain in that in that situation. So that has to be transformed. One of the cool things that could happen from this World Cup success by the US team, and well done to them, is that you may get an influx of dollars into the national setup and so on, that it will help at that level. But it remains still to be seen how much of that goodwill and all the enthusiasm that has occurred with the success of the US team will filter down to the grassroots. One of the last things I want to say is, look, we all been living here in the United States so well, and we all know sport in the United States comes through the education system. It is not like outside where you got clubs. Clubs is where players are developed in other sports. Whether it's football, cricket, it's clubs, how you develop as a player. And that has been the major challenge for getting cricket in schools, where you will have it will expose all the young people and working class, poor youngsters, all because they could be in public schools and so on. And I believe also we can build a parallel club structure, like where it's like how it is in other parts of the world, to facilitate in developing our young people. Because look, Dr. Hines, because of getting to this Super 8s, the US have qualified automatically to the next T20 World Cup. So we have to start making our preparation. Some of these guys that played in the team this time around will not be around, because I'm gonna call names, but I know one person in particular in this team should have never been in the team. He only in the team because he got a name and a reputation. But when you watched him play in this World Cup, you have to ask yourself, what is he doing there in this team, right? So those guys, all of them may not be there. So who are the youngsters coming up behind them that can challenge for places and so on? So U.S. cricket, I said this, and Vincent was in that meeting when at the time D&T was USACA president. And I said, Mr. D&T, why don't we have a comprehensive analysis of our cricket structure? When Ireland made the decision they wanted to play test cricket, Ireland did such a study and had to transform their whole cricket landscape to facilitate that. And that is what we will have to do. And I think if we do that, we can challenge to be one of the serious teams in world cricket because of our population and diversity and the hotbed of athletes in this country. Because now, Dr. Hines, I can comfortably, whereas I couldn't see in the past, a youngster, you could play cricket and earn a good living. I couldn't tell a youngster that 5-10 years ago when I was coaching them, because, lots of guys dropped out, because I coach a lot of youngsters. When they got to college, after college, them guys went on to live their lives. They played a little under 19 with me, but because there was nothing in cricket for them anymore.
Yeah.
Let me jump. Basil says something there very important, so let me jump on it. When the ICC group, it was called the advisory group, and we had Dave Richards. I remember Basil probably know Dave Richardson, for South Africa. Mm-hmm. So he headed the group for the ICC. At the time, I think he was the CEO. For the ICC. So he was the head of the group that put together. It took us 2 years to put together this plan. The fundamental, one of the fundamental pillars of that plan was to do exactly what Basil is saying. We got to build this USA cricket organically from the bottom, going into schools and going into those inner cities where we're going to find the athletes because what was happening in these academies, like Basil said, the poor kids cannot afford your best athletes probably know, because we see where most of the athletes come from in baseball and football and basketball, but they can't afford it to go to these academies. So one of the fundamental pillars that we had was to set up a structure to go into the schools Now, guess what happened? We even debated when we put in that constitution together. We debated whether we had any confidence that it's not going to slip back to what it was, and whether that advisory group should not run USA Cricket for the first 3 or 5 years before we hand it over. And we decided to give it up to the new administration after the elections. And probably that was one of the mistakes that we made. So we did not establish that foundation and set up the system to run how it should have run. We hand it over, and that's what we end up with. It's the same thing. The academies has even gotten even more lucrative now, a big cottage industry in terms of they're getting. Basil probably know the numbers better than I do.
Serious numbers. I mean,
this 20. You got to pay. It's more like more universal.
Double figures in the thousands of dollars, Dr. Hines.
The tens of thousands.
Five figures.
The tens of thousands of dollars to go to these academies. So So you've got to expect your kids to get picked if you're paying all that kind of money, and that's what's going on.
I just want to make one quick point, Dr. Hines, that would concretize what we talk about in the city. I know a guy who had an indoor facility, and he still has it somewhere else in New Jersey, but in the Morristown area. And he told me one day I was over there, because one of the things they would do, they would volunteer stuff, and there was like a place where kids, something like an orphanage, kind of thing. The kids, the parents have abandoned them. So all these kids were young black kids. And he said they would bring them in to teach them to play cricket. And these kids were good athletes. And he said, "Boy, Basil, these boys pick up this cricket." And he was telling me one of them, the man running and bowling fast. I said, so my eyes light up. I said, "Man, where are these guys?" He said, "Man, it's a transient thing. The kids in this facility, they come and then they don't stay there too long and so on." But that was a concrete example of, if we take this game outside the expatriate community to those communities, cricket could become a serious sport in this country.
Yes. Thank you, brothers.
A quick second, Dr. Hines, to show you the thinking of, and it's really ingrained in their thinking. I don't even believe that they're doing anything wrong. When I and a few others, the same lady on the board, when we raised this issue about blacks not part, or the West Indians and blacks not participate, you know what was their comeback? Well, because what they've done, they've appointed a few West Indians. Well, it so happened that the West Indians are Indians. and they cannot differentiate between blacks and West Indians. So they believe that they're satisfying that requirement by having a few Indians in the administration and the selection panels, etc. And we cannot get through to their heads. No, there's a big difference between blacks and Indians and South Asians. So that's the kind of things that we're dealing with, that are the challenges.
We'll continue to cover this issue in the coming weeks. Very important revelations here tonight.
That should resonate with you, Dr. Hines, with Politics 101.
Yes. As you know, it's an issue that I take an active interest in. Well, in an hour's time, we are going to be witnessing the first ball.
Yes.
As we go out, by the time we come back next week, we will have.
We either be smiling or we'll be crying.
Or crying.
Hey, Dr. Hines. Me and Basil were a little bit worried last week when you didn't show up. He said, "Oh God, I want them to lock you up."
Yes.
I get those calls every day, but so far, attaching. I hope they come to me before the end of the World Cup, because if we do well tonight, I want to be there for the semis. I don't want to be asking any policeman, "Oh, what's the score there, man?
What's the score there, man?"
My brothers, thank you all very much for coming on, and hope we have a good match tonight. one way
yes,
or
yes,
the other.
yes.
It will be good if West Indies
As
really.
I said to you, Dr. Hines, I already squeezing. I am already squeezing. Yeah. You know, because West Indies is not a team that you could say, by you're sure that
Yeah,
they're gonna come out and play a certain way.
Yes,
You know what I
exactly,
mean?
exactly.
They're very much just like the Pakistanis, a very mercurial team.
That's right.
You know,
Yeah.
and your emotions could go. You know, so I will be squeezing from 8:30 even more. So, or like what we said that time, classic roti.
All right, my brothers. I'll see you all next week, and
All
and we'll see what happens. A very good sport here, and thank you all very much for staying with us another Sunday evening. Get it out. Well, we don't do the popcorn thing in the West Indies. I suppose we do the plantain chip and chicken foot and so on. And of course, you have to have the El Dorado or something close to that. Whatever it is, let's stay with the boys tonight. If we can win this, tournament, like I said, if we get in to the finals, even if we don't win the finals, I think it will be a boost for West Indies cricket, certainly beyond the boundary, and it could spill within the boundary. So hope we can celebrate after tonight, but we still got to the semi-finals after then, and then the finals. So we still got a way to go. As you all said these days, we have a ways to go. All right, good night, and I'll see you all next week.
Rude boys gonna get you by degrees. Here comes the West Indies. And when you're facing the generals, nearly every ball is a funeral. And when we batting, brother, go and put your men on the boundary line. And if you give we a lick up, that is merely a hiccup. Look, you win the little battle, you lose the war. It's the same result every time. Everybody sing. Here comes the West Indies. Here come the West Indies. Them rude boys gonna get you by degrees. Here come the West Indies. I tell you now, here come the West Indies. Here come the West Indies. Them bad boys gonna bring you to your knees. Here come the West Indies. Special request to the Trinity posse. And what about the Guyana posse? And what about the Jamaica